Hey everybody.
Bird Fine's here.
I'm Mary Beth.
And I'm Laura.
And welcome to Tales from the Put-Out Closet.
Welcome to Carrie and Jenny Penny.
It's Carrie and Jenny Penny.
Hi guys.
So this is episode 10 of Frankenstein. We're almost done. I think it's only going to take a couple more.
I think so.
Honestly.
It's getting good. It's all heated up now.
Yeah. So yeah, we're doing real good. Look, that's all that there is left. So
yep. I think that's 3 good episodes.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I think we're going to get right back into it. What's the last thing that you remember happening?
My memory's a little fuzzy from the last time we were doing this.
So
we were
Henry and
sipping a little when we were doing
that's
it
true.
last.
But Henry and Victor were like traveling around, like doing around all over the place. And then finally Victor is like, I probably should stop for a while and do some business. And Henry's like, no, you should keep going with us. And then Victor's like, no, I really need to, I've got some stuff I need to do. So I think he's finally like settling in and gonna get to work. And he's just been like dilly-dallying all this time.
Yeah.
Thrifter, not hoarder. Didn't expect this. Yeah, this is later than we intended to come on tonight. We were really busy all day today, and this was really like the first opportunity we had to go live. So.
Yeah, because if we didn't do it tonight, then we've got all that packing to do tomorrow, and
yeah,
we better get on with it.
It was the best opportunity we had. Yeah. So here we go.
Hey Heather.
All right. So
hi Sean.
Shall I begin?
Yeah. So
I'm gonna pour me a glass of water.
Okay. Here, I can start.
No, I'll start. You talk for a second.
So yeah, well, Mary Beth, weren't we were just talking about the fact that Victor was like wringing his hands, right? He's putting off making the second creature, and he should be doing it. Like they've traveled all around and they've seen the sights, and he dreads working on it, and then he starts to work on it, and then he quits, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, he promised the monster that he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Like he told him he was going to do it, and now he's just like,
yeah,
I don't know, wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, so you guys be sure and feel free to in the chat talk to each other about what's happening. And if anybody needs filled in, you guys can fill them in the chat.
Exactly. All right, guys, chapter 20.
Oh, and we were wondering what little Frank was doing. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. We were like, where the heck is he? Is he following him around? Is he just held up somewhere in some hovel again? Or what's he doing?
Nobody knows.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Chapter 20. I sat one evening in my laboratory. The sun had set, and the moon was just rising from the sea. I had not sufficient light for my employment, and I remained idle, in a pause of consideration of whether I should leave my labor for the night or hasten its conclusion by an unremitting attention to it.
Okay, so that reminds me. Remember, he's in this godforsaken place.
Is he?
Remember, he's moved himself into this place where it's like this dark, foreboding atmosphere. There's like waves crashing against the cliffs, and it's dark and misty all the time. And
right.
Yeah. We were saying it's foreshadowing for what's about to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As I sat, a train of reflection occurred to me, which led me to consider the effects of what I was now doing. 3 years before, I was engaged in the same manner. I had created a fiend whose unparalleled barbarity had desolated my heart and filled it forever.
Dixie knows we're on. Dixie knows we're on live.
Every time we start doing a live, Dixie starts playing with her toys and
really loudly.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Dixie, it's okay. Here.
I'm gonna start that sentence over.
Yes, because he's got some kind of desolated heart.
Sean, this is the 10th episode. So this is episode 10. So we've had 9 episodes so far. I'm going to start that sentence over. 3 years before, I was engaged in the same manner and had created a fiend whose unparalleled barbarity had desolated my heart and filled it forever with the bitterest remorse. What?
Oh, Victor. I'm just... He just... It's desolated my heart.
3 years.
And here he's doing it again.
3 years it's been. That poor little Frank has been out on his own.
Lord.
I was now about to form another being, of whose dispositions I was alike ignorant. She might become 10,000 times more malignant than her mate, and delight for its own sake in murder and wretchedness.
Oh, God.
He had sworn to quit the neighborhood of man and hide himself in deserts, but she had not. And she, who in all probability was to become a thinking and reasoning animal, might refuse to comply with a pact made before her creation. Great thoughts. Probably should have thought of that before you promised to make her. They might even hate each other.
They might.
The creature who already lived loathed his own deformity, and might he not conceive a greater abhorrence for it when it came before his eyes in the female form?
I don't know about it.
I don't know. She might also turn with disgust from him to the superior beauty of man. Oh, the superior beauty of man. He thinks a lot of himself and of Henry. She might quit him, and he would be alone again, exasperated by the fresh provocation of being deserted by one of his own species. Yeah, how bad would that be? I mean, he's already been like shunned by man. So if he's shunned by someone who's like him, that would really do him in.
Well, yeah, great thoughts, Victor, but where were you a couple of conversations ago when all this was going down?
Sean, it's okay. It's okay that you're lost. It's no problem. Even if they were to leave Europe and inhabit the deserts of the New World, yet one of the first results of those sympathies for which the demon thirsted would be children, and a race of devils would be propagated upon the earth.
Yikes.
Who might make the very existence of the species of man a condition precarious and full of terror.
I don't know what to say to that. A race of devils?
Had I a right for my own benefit to inflict this curse upon everlasting generations?
No.
Well, you've already done it, Victor. Why didn't you think of this before? You've done it once already.
Yeah.
He didn't have all these, thoughts then. Goodness. I had before been moved by the sophisms of the being I had created. I had been struck senseless by his fiendish threats. But now, for the first time, the wickedness of my promise burst upon me. I shuddered to think that future ages might curse me as their pest, whose selfishness had not hesitated to buy its own peace at the price, perhaps, of the existence of the whole human race. You should have thought of this before. You've already made your bed, Victor. I trembled, and my heart failed within me. When on looking up, I saw by the light of the moon the demon at the casement. Casement? What's a casement? A window?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to read that again. Casement, I think, is window. I trembled and my heart failed within me. When on looking up, I saw by the light of the moon the demon at the casement.
So he's there right now?
Yeah. Victor, you should have been working. This isn't going to end well. A ghastly grin wrinkled his lips as he gazed on me where I sat fulfilling the task which he had allotted to me. Yes, he had followed me in my travels. He had loitered in forests, hid himself in caves, or taken refuge in the wide and desert heaths. And now he came to mark my progress and claim the fulfillment of my promise. So he's been watching Victor just
lollygagging around,
wasting all this precious time. He waited till he was alone, and now he's coming to him and being like, this isn't going to be good.
No, nothing good can come of this.
As I looked on him, his countenance. You have to drink when we say countenance or benevolence. As I looked on him, his countenance expressed the utmost extent of malice and treachery. I thought with a sensation of madness on my promise of creating another like him, and trembling with passion tore to pieces the thing on which I was engaged. The wretch saw me destroy the creature on whose future existence he he depended for happiness, and with a howl of devilish despair and revenge withdrew.
Yikes.
I left the room and, locking the door, made a solemn vow in my own heart to never resume my labors. And then, with trembling steps, I sought my own apartment. When I was alone, none were near me to dissipate the gloom and relieve me from the sickening oppression of the most terrible reveries. Several hours passed, and I remained near my window gazing out on the sea. It was almost motionless, for the winds were hushed, and all nature reposed under the eye of the quiet moon.
It was the calm before the storm, Mary Beth.
A few fishing vessels alone specked the water, and now and then a gentle breeze wafted the sound of voices as fishermen called to one another. I felt the silence, although I was hardly conscious of its extreme profundity, until my ear was suddenly arrested by the paddling of oars near the shore, and a person landed close to my house. In a few minutes after, I heard the creaking of my door.
Who's that going to be?
As if someone endeavored to open it softly. I trembled from head to foot. I felt...
God, Victor. Get a hold of yourself, Victor. Take control of the situation.
I felt a presentiment of who it was, and wished to rouse one of the peasants who dwelt in a cottage not far from mine, but I was overcome by the sensation of helplessness, so often felt in frightful dreams when you in vain endeavor to fly from a room in impending danger, and was rooted in the spot. Yikes. I hate that when that happens.
God,
when you're in a dream and you're trying to run or like punch somebody and you're just like in quicksand.
It's the worst.
Oh yeah, it's so bad.
Or like you're running and you're losing ground.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're getting sucked back. Ugh.
Presently, I heard the sound of footsteps along the passage. The door opened, and the wretch whom I dreaded appeared. Shutting the door, he approached me and said in a smothered voice,
"Oh, gosh.
You have destroyed the work which you began. What is it that you intend? Do you dare to break your promise? I have endured toil and misery. I left Switzerland with you. I crept along the shores of the Rhine, among its willow islands, and over the summits of its hills. I have dwelt many months in the heaths of England and among the deserts of Scotland.
Watching you and Henry taking it all in.
I have endured incalculable fatigue and cold and hunger. Do you dare destroy my hopes?" And here's Victor speaking.
I can't wait to hear Victor's response to this. Sean says you're an excellent reader.
Oh, Sean. Thank you. I feel like I stumble over the words, but thank you. Here's Victor speaking. "Begone. I do break my promise. Never will I create another like yourself, equal in deformity and wickedness." Here's little Frank speaking.
Oh, Victor got brave there for a minute.
Yeah. Here's little Frank speaking. "Slave, I before reasoned with you, but you have proved yourself unworthy of my condescension."
Yes.
"Of my condescension. Remember that I have power. You believe yourself miserable, but I can make you so wretched that the light of day will be hateful to you.
Oh.
You are my creator, but I like this line. You are my creator, but I am your master. Obey."
Oh.
Bruh. Little Frank.
Dang, Frank.
Little Frank is telling him. I'm going to read that again. Little Frank says, "You are my creator, but I am your master.
Oh.
Obey."
Shit.
And let's see. I want to make sure that I know who's speaking here. Okay, this is Victor speaking back. "The hour of my irresolution is past, and the period of your power is arrived. Your threats cannot move me to do an act of wickedness, but they confirm in me a determination of not creating you a companion in vice. Shall I, in cool blood, set loose upon the earth a demon whose delight is in death and wretchedness? Be gone. I am firm, and all your words will only exasperate my rage." Why are you laughing?
Someone in the chat says it's like having a toddler.
funny.
I mean, come on, right? Well, I mean, okay. So at this point, I feel like this is the way Victor should have behaved all along.
Yeah.
He should, he's trying, at least he's trying to take control of the situation. He's like, nope, this is not going any further. Do to me what you must, but I'm not going for it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's redeeming a little bit for Victor.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
The monster saw the determination in my face and gnashed his teeth in the impotence of anger.
I hate that. What, can you gnash your teeth?
I don't know. I don't know what that means. Shall each man, cried he, find a wife for his bosom, and each beast have his mate, and I be alone? I had feelings of affection, and they were requited by detestation and scorn. Man, you may hate, but beware. Your hours will pass in dread and misery, and soon the bolt will fall, which must ravish you from happiness forever. Are you to be happy while I grovel in the intensity of my wretchedness? You can blast my other passions, but revenge remains. Revenge, henceforth dearer than light or food. I may die, but first you, my tyrant and tormentor, shall curse the sun that gazes on your misery. Beware, for I am fearless, and therefore powerful. I will watch with the wiliness. I will watch with the wiliness of a snake, that I may sting with its venom. Man, you shall repent of the injuries you inflict. Here's Victor speaking. Devil, cease, and do not poison the air with the sounds of malice.
Oh.
I have declared my resolution to you.
He's not taking it.
And I am no coward to bend beneath words. Leave me.
You could have fooled us, Victor, but I mean,
here's little Frank.
Kudos to you, Victor.
Here's little Frank speaking back. It is well, I go, but remember, I shall be with you on your wedding night.
Dun dun dun. Ooh.
No.
Oh my God.
He says,
I'll be back, man.
He says, it is well. I'll go, but remember, I shall be with you on your wedding night.
That's no good.
I started forward and exclaimed, Villain, before you sign my death warrant, be sure that you yourself are safe. I would have seized him, but he eluded me and quitted the house with precipitation. In a few moments, I saw him on his boat, which shot across the waters with an arrowy swiftness and was soon lost amidst the waves. All was again silent, but his words rang in my ears. I burned with rage to pursue the murderer of my peace and precipitate him into the ocean. I walked up and down my room hastily and perturbed, while the imagination conjured up 1,000 images to torment and sting me. Why had I not followed him and closed with him in mortal strife?
Right?
But I had suffered him to depart, and he had directed his course toward the mainland.
Now he doesn't know where he is.
I shuddered to think who might be his next victim. And then I thought again of his words, I shall be with you on your wedding night.
Brenda says, okay, ladies, don't marry Victor.
That then was the period fixed for the fulfillment of my destiny. In that hour I should die, and at once satisfy and extinguish his malice. The prospect did not move me to fear, yet when I thought of my beloved Elizabeth, of her tears and endless sorrow, when she should find her lover so barbarously snatched from her, tears, the first I had shed for many months, streamed from my eyes, and I had resolved not to fall before my enemy without a bitter struggle. The night passed away, and the sun rose from the ocean. My feelings became calmer. It may be called calmness when the violence of rage sinks into the depths of despair. I left the house, the horrid scene of last night's contention, and walked on the beach of the sea, which I almost regarded as an insuperable barrier between me and my fellow creatures. Nay, a wish that such should prove the fact stole across me. I desired that I might pass my life on that barren rock, wearily, it is true, but uninterrupted by any sudden shock of misery. If I returned, it was to be sacrificed, or to see those whom I most loved die under the grasp of a demon who I had myself created.
Yes.
So he's like, what do I do?
What am I going to do?
Should I just stay here on this shitty rock? Because if I go home, either I'm going to die or somebody's going to die. Somebody's going to die.
Well, he might as well bring it on, because poor Elizabeth, she's probably about ready to die anyway.
And earlier he's like, I'm no coward. Yes, you are. He is just the worst. I walked about the aisle.
He's trying to stand his ground, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I walked about the aisle like a restless specter, separated from all its loved and miserable in the separation. When it became noon and the sun rose higher, I lay down on the grass and was overpowered by a deep sleep. Don't you have other stuff to do?
Take a nap.
Except just laying in the grass? I had been awake the whole of the preceding night.
Oh.
Well, my nerves were agitated and my eyes inflamed by watching and misery. The sleep into which I now sunk refreshed me, and when I awoke, I again felt as if I belonged to a race of human beings like myself, and I began to reflect on what had passed with greater composure. Yet still the words of the fiend rung in my ears like the death knell, and they appeared like a dream, yet distinct and oppressive as a reality. The sun had far descended, and I still sat on the shore, satisfying my appetite, which had become ravenous, with an oaten cake. An oaten cake. Oaten, like oats.
Well, okay. That is... What an odd reference. I believe that's the first time they've even referred to him ever eating anything.
Yeah.
So
he's eating an oaten.
So he's just like chill now.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he's gained all this composure. He's not having a fit anymore. He's not tearing his hair out, and he's going to have a little cake.
Brenda's like, if little Frank had threatened me, I wouldn't be sleeping outside.
Or
right?
eating a cake.
Yeah. He's hungry, though, I guess. Let me find my place. I've lost it. He's eating an oaten cake. And I saw a fishing boat land close to me, and one of the men brought me a packet. It contained letters from Geneva and one from Clerval, entreating me to join him. He said that he was wearing away his time fruitlessly where he was, that letters from the friends that he had formed in London desired his return to complete the negotiation they had entered into for his Indian enterprise. So this is from Henry. So, you know.
Henry's had somebody take a boat and go find Victor to give him his love letters.
He could not any longer delay his departure, but as his journey to London might be followed, even sooner than he now conjectured, by his longer voyage, he entreated me to bestow as much of my society on him as I could spare. He besought me, therefore, to leave my solitary isle and to meet him at Perth, and that we might proceed southward together. This letter, in a degree, recalled me to life, and I determined to quit my island at the expiration of 2 days. So he's like, now I feel better.
Yeah.
I've heard from Henry. Henry wants me to come over.
Yeah. I've had my little
I feel
fit.
better.
Yeah.
You'll forget that little Frank's going to kill me and everybody I love.
On my wedding night.
On my wedding night, but now I feel better. Yet before I departed, there was a task to perform on which I shuddered to reflect. I must pack up my chemical instruments, and for that purpose I must enter the room which had been the scene of my odious work, and I must handle those utensils, the sight of which was sickening to me. The next morning at daybreak, I summoned sufficient courage and unlocked the door of my laboratory. The remains of the half-finished creature whom I had destroyed lay scattered on the floor.
Ew.
And I almost felt as if I had mangled the living flesh of a human being.
Well,
I paused to collect myself and entered the chamber. With trembling hand, I conveyed the instruments of the room, but I reflected that I ought not leave the relics of my work to entice the horror and suspicion of the peasants. You think? He's He's like, I probably shouldn't leave all these body parts in the floor.
Ew.
Really, Victor? Clean up your mess. Deal with your shit.
I mean, he's left it for 2 days as it is. Ugh.
Deal with your shit. Oh my gosh.
Oh. Victor's I agree. I think there's something wrong with Victor.
I reflected that I ought not to leave the relics of my work to excite the horror and suspicion of the peasants, and I accordingly put them into a basket with a great quantity of stones, and laying them up, determined to throw them into the sea that very night. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, I sat upon the beach, employed in cleaning and arranging my chemical apparatus. What an idiot. So I think it's very obvious that a woman wrote this because she's just made him the worst. And I think that that's funny.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a little feminist coming out in her, though, because, I mean, normally women in that time period wouldn't have spoken like that.
But isn't it just like a man? I'm sorry to my men out there. I know Delbert's here, so I'm sorry to my men. But, I mean, isn't it just like a man to, like, leave his shit just in the floor and to not deal with it?
And to have a big pity party for himself when he has to clean up?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I love everybody.
Sean, this was written in the 1800s. So it's set in the 1700s, actually, but Mary Shelley wrote this in like what, early 1800s.
I feel like she is totally like throwing shade to her husband. Okay, because this book was written for a writing contest between her and her husband's friends, mm-hmm. right?
Lord Byron
and
the doctor.
So I feel like this is like totally. I feel like he's totally throwing shade. She's totally throwing shade at her husband in this book. Like maybe he was untidy.
Well, that's a lot of shade.
Hi, Mark Taylor. Welcome.
It's a lot of shade.
Nothing could be more complete than the alteration that had taken place in my feelings since the night of the appearance of the demon. I had before regarded my promise with a gloomy despair, as a thing that which, whatever consequences, must be fulfilled. But I now felt as if a film had been taken from before my eyes.
Okay.
And what?
No, I'm with you now.
And that I, for the first time, saw clearly.
Yeah.
The ideas of renewing my labors did not for one instant occur to me. The threat I had heard weighed on my thoughts, but I did not reflect that voluntary act of mine could avert it. I had resolved in my own mind that to create another like the fiend that I had first made would be an act of the basest and most atrocious selfishness.
Yes.
And I banished from my mind every thought that I could lead to a different conclusion. Between 2 and 3 in the morning, the moon rose, and I then, putting my basket aboard a little skiff, sailed out about 4 miles from the shore. The scene was perfectly solitary. A few boats were returning toward land, but I sailed away from them. I felt as if I was about the commission of a dreadful crime, and avoided with shuddering anxiety with any encounter with my fellow creatures.
He's dumping body parts. I mean, he needs to steer clear.
Yeah, you really should be worried about this. At one time, the moon, which had before been clear, was suddenly overspread by a thick cloud, and I took advantage of the moment of darkness and cast my basket into the sea. I listened to the gurgling sound as it sunk, and then sailed away from the spot. The sky became clouded, but the air was pure, although chilled by the northeast breeze that was again rising. But it refreshed me and filled me with such agreeable sensations that I resolved to prolong my stay on the water, and fixing the rudder in a direct position, stretched myself at the bottom of the boat. Clouds hid the moon. Everything was obscure, and I heard only the sound of the boat as its keel cut through the waves. The murmur lulled me, and in a short time I slept soundly. So there he goes out there to sink his body parts, and he's out there and he's like, oh, this is nice. I think I'll just lay down in the boat. And then he just falls asleep.
The minute he gets rid of the body parts, he's like, oh, that's a big
he's
weight
like,
off my
I feel
shoulders.
Better. Oh, I feel so much better now. It's such a weight off my shoulders. What a tool. I'm so mad at him.
Oh my God.
I do not know how long I remained in this situation, but when I awoke, I found that the sun had already mounted considerably. The wind was high, and the waves continually threatened the safety of my little skiff.
Well, yeah, is he lost?
I found that the wind was northeast, and I must have driven me far from the coast from which I had embarked.
Yeah, I bet. He fell asleep.
I endeavored to change my course, but quickly found that if I again made the attempt, the boat would be instantly filled with water. So now he's in a terrible situation. Again. He just can't win. Yeah. Thus situated, my only resource was to drive before the wind. I confess that I felt a few sensations of terror. I had no compass with me and was so slenderly acquainted with the geography of this part of the world that the sun was of little benefit to me.
Well, yeah.
That's what you get, Victor, when you row out into the sea on this little shitty boat and just fall asleep.
He's supposed to be a learned scholar. He should know better than these things.
What a moron.
I mean, anybody would know that you can't fall asleep in the boat out in the middle of the water.
I might be driven into the wide Atlantic and feel the tortures of starvations, or be swallowed up in the immeasurable waters that roared and buffeted around me. I had already been out many hours and felt the torment of a burning thirst, a prelude to my other sufferings. I looked on the heavens, which were covered by clouds that flew before the wind, only to be replaced by others. I looked upon the sea. It was to be my grave. Fiend, I exclaimed, your task is already fulfilled. I thought of Elizabeth, of my father, and of Clerval, all left behind, on whom the monster might satisfy his I don't know that word. What is that word?
Sanguinary.
Sanguinary. I don't know that word. On whom the monster might satisfy his sanguinary and merciless passions. What does that mean? Blood? Oh, that's a great word. This idea plunged me into a reverie so despairing and frightful.
Oh, yeah, that's what Heather said.
That even now, when the scene is on the point of closing before me forever, I shudder to reflect on it. So he's out in the sea, and he is...
Well, he's a drama queen per usual. Things can't just... I don't know. I feel like... What were we talking about earlier tonight? Something being volatile?
Yeah.
Where it's quiet for a long time and then all of a sudden, everything happens at one time. This is Victor. I think he's a schizophrenic. I mean, he's like fine as rain, right as rain, whatever the saying is, for a long time. Like enjoying nature and the beauty of the landscape and like dilly-dallying around. And then everything is complete drama. Like
everything's complete drama, and then he falls asleep in the grass or in the sea.
And then it's like the end of times again.
He's like not helping himself at all. Some hours passed thus, but by degrees, as the sun declined toward the horizon, the wind died away into a gentle breeze, and the sea became free from breakers. But these gave place to heavy swell. I felt sick and hardly able to hold the rudder, when suddenly I saw a line of high land toward the south. Almost spent as I was by fatigue and the dreadful suspense I endured for several hours, this certainty of life rushed like a flood of warm joy to my heart, and tears gushed from my eyes.
See, he's like, now he's got tears of joy.
How mutable are our let me do that again. How mutable are our feelings, and how strange is that clinging love that we have of life, even in the excess of misery. I constructed another sail with a part of my dress and eagerly steered my course toward the land. I had a wild and rocky appearance, but as I approached nearer, I easily perceived the traces of civilization. Excuse me, that word was cultivation. When those words are hyphenated at the end of a line and go to the next line, that I don't do well. I easily perceived the traces of cultivation. I saw vessels near the shore and found myself suddenly transported back to the neighborhood of civilized man. I carefully traced the windings of the land and hailed a steeple, which at length I saw from behind a small promontory. As I was in a state of extreme debility, I resolved to sail directly toward the town as a place where I could most easily procure nourishment. Fortunately, I had money with me. As well, that was great. Good job. It's the best thing you've done all day.
So he goes out in the middle of the ocean
with his body parts
to
in
get
a basket.
rid of the body parts. He doesn't take any like water or anything in case he gets lost at sea, but he does have some money.
He's got some cash. Good thinking, Victor. It's the best thing you've done. As I turned from the promontory, I perceived a small, neat town and a good harbor, which I entered, my heart bounding with joy at my unexpected escape. As I was occupied in fixing the boat and arranging the sails, several people crowded toward the spot. They seemed much surprised at my appearance, but instead of offering me any assistance, whispered together with gestures that any other time might have produced in me a slight sensation of alarm. As it was, I merely remarked that they spoke English, and therefore addressed them in that language. "My good friend," said I, "will you be so kind to tell me the name of this town and inform me where I am?" "You will know that soon enough," replied a man with a hoarse voice. "Maybe you are come to a place that will not prove much to your taste, but you will not be consulted as to your quarters, I promise you." I was exceedingly surprised on receiving so rude an answer from a stranger, and was also disconcerted on perceiving the frowning and angry countenances of his companions. Why do you answer me so roughly?" I replied. "Surely it is not the custom of Englishmen to receive strangers so inhospitably." That was hard to say.
Something's about to go down. What do you think's happening?
I don't know. Do you know?
No, but I think...
Don't spoil me.
No, I don't know. But I'm guessing that they saw him disposing of body parts out in the middle of the ocean.
Oh, no.
They're probably going to arrest him.
"I do not know," said the man, "what the custom of the English may be, but it is the custom of the Irish to hate villains."
Dun, dun, dun.
While this strange dialogue continued, I perceived the crowd rapidly increase. Their faces expressed a mixture of curiosity and anger, which
Yikes.
annoyed and in some degree alarmed me.
An angry mob.
I inquired the way to the inn, but no one replied, and then moved forward, and a murmuring sound arose from the crowd as they followed and surrounded me.
Oh, no.
When an ill-looking man approaching tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Come, sir, you must follow me to Mr. Kerwin's to give an account of yourself." Who is Mr. Kerwin? Why am I to give an account of myself? Is this not a free country? "Aye, sir, free enough for honest folk. Mr. Kerwin is a magistrate, and you are to give an account of the death of a gentleman who was found murdered here last night."
Uh-oh.
This answer startled me, but I presently recovered myself. I was innocent. That could easily be proved. Accordingly, I followed my conductor in silence and was led to one of the best houses in the town. I was ready to sink from fatigue and hunger, but being surrounded by a crowd, I thought it politic to rouse all of my strength, that no physical debility might be construed in apprehension or conscious guilt. Little did I then expect the calamity that was in a few moments to overwhelm me and extinguish in horror and despair all the fear of ignominy. I can't say that word.
I know.
I cannot say that. Ignominy?
Yes.
I cannot say that very good. Ignominy or death. I must pause here, for it requires all my fortitude to recall the memory of the frightful events which I am about to relate in proper detail to my recollection.
Dun, dun, dun.
End of chapter.
Joanne says, about to be framed.
Oh, no.
So I was wrong. They didn't see what he was doing in the ocean. Rather, probably little Frank has been pillaging the town.
Yeah.
And
he's going to get the blame for it.
Yeah, he's about to get blamed for it.
Do you want to take over?
Yep.
Chapter 21. Oh, man, it's getting good. That was a good chapter. That was a lot. That was a lot of stuff happening.
It really was.
Oh, little Frank. Little Frank has murdered.
I'm telling you, little Frank's gone off the deep end as well.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him a bit.
Here we go, Victor.
Yeah, that's right, Colleen. The Irish hated the English, so that would have been an insult to have been called Englishmen, for real.
I was soon introduced into the presence of the magistrate, an old benevolent man, with calm and mild manners. He looked on me, however, with some degree of severity, and then, turning toward my conductors, he asked who appeared as witnesses on this occasion. About half a dozen men came forward, and one being selected by the magistrate, he deposed that he had been out fishing the night before with his son and brother-in-law, Daniel Nugent, when about 10 o'clock they observed a strong northerly blast rising, and they accordingly put in for port. It was a very dark night. As the moon had not yet risen, they did not land at the harbor, but, as they had been accustomed, at a creek about 2 miles below. He walked on first, carrying a part of the fishing tackle, and his companions followed him at some distance. As he was proceeding along the sands, he struck his foot against something and fell at his length on the ground. His companions came up to assist him, and by the light of their lanterns, they found that he had fallen on the body of a man, who was to all appearance dead.
Oh, no.
Their first supposition was that it was the corpse of some person who had been drowned and was thrown on shore by the waves. But on examination, they found that the clothes were not wet, and even that the body was not then cold. They instantly carried it to the cottage of an old woman near the spot and endeavored, but in vain, to restore it to life. It appeared to be a handsome young man, about 25 years of age. He had apparently been strangled, for there was no sign of any violence except the black mark of fingers on his neck.
Oh, no.
The first part of his deposition did not in the least interest me, but when the mark of the fingers was mentioned, I remembered the murder of my brother and felt myself extremely agitated. My limbs trembled, and a mist came over my eyes, which obliged me to lean on a chair for support. God, Victor,
you're giving yourself away. Have a poker face. Come on.
The magistrate observed me with a keen eye.
I bet he did.
And, of course, drew an unfavorable augury from my manner. I don't know what that word is, but
it's fine.
A conclusion, I guess.
Mary Shelley has a better vocabulary than we do.
Too much. The son confirmed his father's account, but when Daniel Nugent was called, he swore positively that just before the fall of his companion, he saw a boat with a single man in it at a short distance from the shore. And as far as he could judge by the light of a few stars, it was the same boat in which I had just landed.
Oh, no.
A woman deposed that she lived near the beach and was standing at the door of her cottage, waiting for the return of the fishermen about an hour before she heard of the discovery of the body, when she saw a boat, with only one man in it, push off from that part of the shore where the corpse was afterwards found.
Auntie Gadenta says, get the smelling salt. Victor's fainting
here
again.
He goes. He's getting woozy. Another woman Another woman confirmed the account of the fisherman having brought the body into her house. It was not cold. They put it into a bed and rubbed it, and Daniel went to the town for an apothecary, but life was quite gone.
Brenda Bat says, can't they see that Victor is a wuss and probably didn't have the body strength to strangle someone?
Several other men were examined concerning my landing, and they agreed with the strong north wind that had arisen during the night that it was very probable that I had beaten about for many hours and had been obliged to return nearly to the same spot from which I had departed. Besides, they observed that it appeared that I had brought the body from another place, and it was likely that as I did not appear to know the shore, I might have put into the harbor, ignorant of the distance of the town of blank from the place where I had deposited the corpse.
It's not looking good.
Mr. Kerwin, on hearing this evidence, desired that I should be taken into the room where the body lay for interment, that it might be observed what effect the sight of it would produce upon me.
Well, I mean, what? That's not a good test.
We're in the 1700s here. They're not, I mean, you know, there's some stuff that's kind of like, This idea was probably suggested by the extreme agitation I had exhibited when the mode of the murder had been described.
I bet.
I was accordingly conducted by the magistrate and several other persons to the inn. I could not help being struck by the strange coincidences that had taken place during this eventful night, but knowing that I had been conversing with several persons in the island I had inhabited about the time that the body had been found, I was perfectly tranquil as to the consequences of the affair. Victor still thinks that they're going to believe him, I guess. But, I mean, little Frank just told him that he set up Justine for the murder of the brother. So, I mean, I don't know why Victor is not.
They're saying Henry, and they're saying, oh, was it Henry? What are they saying? What are they?
Oh, they're wondering if Henry was dead.
Oh.
Yikes.
Oh, shit. I didn't even think of that.
I didn't either.
Oh, no.
So Victor's about to walk up in there and.
Oh, no.
Oh, God. God, I can't believe we didn't think of that.
I didn't.
Let's see.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear.
Do we have moderators in here? Can you get on?
Carrie's in there.
Yeah. Carrie, would you get that bot, please?
I entered the room where the corpse lay. Here we go. And was led up to the coffin. Oh, God. How can I describe my sensations of beholding it? I feel yet parched with horror, nor can I reflect on that terrible moment without shuddering and agony. The examination, the presence of the magistrate and witnesses passed like a dream from my memory when I saw the lifeless form of Henry Clerval stretched before me.
No!
I gasped for breath, and throwing myself on the body, I exclaimed, "Have my murderous machinations deprived you also, my dearest Henry, of life? 2 I have already destroyed. Other victims await their destiny, but you, Clerval, my friend, my benefactor." The human frame could no longer support the agonies that I endured, and I was carried out of the room in strong convulsions.
Bro, I did not see that coming. I did not even think about it. Oh my gosh. No. Y'all. He loves Henry more than anybody.
Yeah,
more
pretty
than Elizabeth.
Much. Oh my God.
Oh no.
I can't believe we didn't think of it.
I'm shook.
Me too. Okay, and I just love the explanations of Victor. Like he's just he's not just upset. I mean, like he's like physically not able to stand up.
Yeah.
So, okay, they've carried him out of the room in strong convulsions. Okay, a fever succeeded to this. And so now he's in a fever. I lay for 2 months.
What?
On the point of death.
Jesus.
My ravings, as I afterwards heard, were frightful. So he's out of his mind. I called myself the murderer of William, of Justine, and of Clerval. Sometimes I entreated my attendants to assist me in the destruction of the fiend by whom I was tormented, and at others I felt the fingers of the monster already grasping my neck, and screamed aloud with agony and terror.
They're gonna put him away.
He's laying there just 2 months out of his
hold
mind.
Hold on. If a woman was doing that, if a woman was carrying on for 2 months and like in fever fits, she would have been like put away or killed already.
Yeah.
She would have been burned at the stake for being a witch.
Exactly. Fortunately, as I spoke my native language, Mr. Kerwin alone understood me, but my gestures and bitter cries were sufficient to affright the other witnesses. For 2 months.
He has been in a state of crazy for 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
I am shook.
Yeah. Why did I not die?
Did you know this was going to happen?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
No, I really didn't. I can't believe I didn't think of it.
You're like, well, this is what reading is like. This is why people do this.
More miserable than man ever was before. Why did I not sink into forgetfulness and rest? Death snatches away many blooming children, the only hopes of their doting parents. How many brides and youthful lovers have been one day in the bloom of health and hope, and the next a prey for worms and the decay of the tomb? Of what materials was I made that I could thus resist so many shocks, which, like the turning of the wheel, continually renewed the torture?
Oh my gosh.
But I was doomed to live, and in 2 months found myself as awakening from a dream in a prison, stretched on a wretched bed, surrounded by gaolers, turnkeys, bolts, and all the miserable apparatus of a dungeon.
Yikes.
It was morning, I remember, when I thus awoke to understanding. I had forgotten the particulars of what had happened, and only felt as if some great misfortune had suddenly overwhelmed me. But when I looked around and saw the barred windows and the squalidness of the room in which I was, all flashed across my memory, and I groaned bitterly.
So he's just like woken up from some sort of trance 2 months later.
Psychological terror fit of some sort.
That is dramatic.
Yeah.
I mean,
like a woke coma.
I get that is going to be shocking and terrible, but pull yourself together a little, man.
This sound is... Oh, so he groaned. This sound disturbed an old woman who was sleeping in a chair beside me. She was a hired nurse, the wife of one of the turnkeys, and her countenance expressed all those bad qualities which often characterize that class. Yikes. The lines of her face were hard and rude, like that of persons accustomed to see without sympathizing in sights of misery. Her tone expressed her entire indifference. She addressed me in English, and the voice struck me as one that I had heard during my sufferings. "Are you better now, sir?" said she. I replied in the same language with a feeble voice. "I believe I am, but if it all be true, if indeed I did not dream, I'm sorry that I'm still alive to feel this misery and horror." What a way to answer. Yeah, I think I'm okay. He's got this big dramatic answer. "For that matter," replied the old woman, "if you mean about the gentleman you murdered, I believe that it were better for you if you were dead. For I fancy it will go hard for you. However, that's none of my business. I'm sent here to nurse you and to get you well.
That's none of my business.
I do my duty with a safe conscience. If it were well, if everybody did the same." She's got some sort of little accent or something.
Yeah, she is.
So she's like just this stern nurse that's just there to like get him well enough to, I guess, try for murder.
Yeah.
How's he going to get out of this, by the way?
Yeah, really.
I turned with loathing from the woman who could utter so unfeeling a speech to a person just saved on the very edge of death. I mean, he's like condemning himself, but now he's mad at her. because she doesn't like him.
Yeah, she's probably been nursing you this whole time.
But I felt languid and unable to reflect on all that had passed. The whole series of my life appeared to me as a dream. I sometimes doubted if indeed it were all true, for it never presented itself to my mind with the force of reality. So now he's not sure that he even knows what's happening. As the images that...
He's exhausting.
He really is. As the images that floated before me became more distinct, I grew feverish.
Again.
A darkness pressed around me. No one was near me who soothed me with the gentle voice of love. No dear hand supported me. The physician came and prescribed medicines, and the old woman prepared them for me. But utter carelessness was visible in the first, and the expression of brutality was strongly marked in the visage of the second. Who could be interested in the fate of a murderer but the hangman who would gain his fee?
So he's just like pouting that nobody's holding his hand.
Yeah, he's pouting, yeah. These were my first reflections, but I soon learned that Mr. Kerwin had shown me extreme kindness. He had caused the best room in the prison to be prepared for me. Wretched indeed was the best. And it was he who had provided a physician and a nurse. It is true, he seldom came to see me, for although he ardently desired to relieve the sufferings of every human creature, he did not wish to be present at the agonies and miserable ravings of a murderer. He came, therefore, sometimes to see that I was not neglected, but his visits were short and with long intervals.
Joanne Johnston says it's kind of like poor little Frank. You know how little Frank experienced all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And now it's, the tides have turned.
Yes. One day while I was gradually recovering, of course you were gradually recovering. I mean, does Elizabeth even remember who he is?
Really?
One day while I was gradually recovering, I was seated in a chair, my eyes half open and my cheeks livid like those in death. I was overcome by gloom and misery, and often reflected I had better seek death than desire to remain in a world which to me was replete with wretchedness. At one time I considered whether I should not declare myself guilty and suffer the penalty of the law, less innocent than poor Justine had been. But yes,
yeah,
Victor.
A lot less.
Such were my thoughts when the door of my apartment was opened and Mr. Kerwin entered. His countenance expressed sympathy and compassion. He drew a chair close to mine and addressed me in French. Oh, thank God this is not written in French. I fear that this place is very shocking to you. Can I do anything to make you more comfortable?
Yeah.
I thank you, but all that you mention is nothing to me. On the whole earth there is no comfort which I am capable of receiving. I know that the sympathy of a stranger can be but of little relief of one borne down as you are by so strange a misfortune. But you will, I hope, soon quit this melancholy abode, for doubtless evidence can easily be brought to free you from the criminal charge. That's my least concern. I am, by a course of strange events, become the most miserable of mortals. Persecuted and tortured as I am and have been, can death by any evil to me? I don't really understand that sentence. Nothing indeed could be more unfortunate and agonizing than the strange chances that have lately occurred. You were thrown by some surprising accident on this shore, renowned for its hospitality, seized immediately and charged with murder. The first sight that was presented to your eyes was the body of your friend, murdered in so unaccountable a manner and placed as it were by some fiend across your path. As Mr. Kerwin said this, notwithstanding the agitation I endured on this retrospect of my sufferings, I also felt considerable surprise at the knowledge he seemed to possess concerning me. I suppose some astonishment was exhibited in my countenance, for Mr. Kerwin hastened to say, immediately upon your being taken ill, all the papers that were on your person were brought to me, and I examined them that I might discover some trace by which I could send to your relations an account of your misfortune and illness. I found several letters, and among others one which I discovered from its commencement to be from your father. I instantly wrote to Geneva. Nearly 2 months have elapsed since the departure of my letter. But you are ill. Even now you tremble. You are unfit for agitation of any kind. This suspense is 1,000 times worse than the most horrible event. Tell me what new scene of death has been acted and whose I am now to lament. So he's like, great, what other bad news is there? So that you couldn't tell me this because I was in a feverish coma of some sort. So he's waiting for this bad news.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mr. Kerwin says, your family is perfectly well, says Mr. Kerwin with gentleness. And someone, a friend, has come to visit you.
Oh.
I know not by what chain of thought the idea presented itself, but it instantly darted into my mind that the murderer had come to mock at my misery and taunt me with the death of Clerval as a new incitement for me to comply with his hellish desires. I put my hand over my eyes and cried out in agony, "Oh, take him away! I cannot see him for God's sake. Do not let him enter." Mr. Kerwin regarded me with a troubled countenance.
Mr. Kerwin's like, bro.
It's like,
calm down.
Dude. He could not help regarding my exclamation as a presumption of my guilt and said in a severe tone, I should have thought, young man, that the presence of your father would have been welcome instead of inspiring such violent repugnance. So it's his dad. His dad's there.
Gosh, Victor, you're just like digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper.
My father, cried I, while every feature and every muscle was relaxed from anguish to pleasure. Is my father indeed come? How kind, how very kind. But where is he? Why does he not hasten to me?
Jeez.
I don't know, Victor, you tell me. My change of manner surprised and pleased the magistrate. Perhaps he thought that my former exclamation was a momentary return of delirium, and now he instantly resumed his former benevolence. Drink.
Goodness.
He rose and quitted the room with my nurse, and in a moment my father entered it.
Oh, Lord. Victor, he's just like a roller coaster of emotion.
He is. He's killing me. Nothing at this moment could have given me greater pleasure than the arrival of my father. I stretched out my hand to him and cried, Are you then safe? And Elizabeth? And Ernest? My father calmed me with the assurances of their welfare and endeavored, by dwelling on those subjects so interesting to my heart, to raise my desponding spirits. But he soon felt that a prison cannot be the abode of cheerfulness. What a place is this that you inhabit, my son, said he, looking mournfully at the barred windows and wretched appearance of the room. You traveled to seek happiness, but a fatality seems to pursue you, and poor Clerval. So that's what his dad said. Yeah. So remember, his dad was so happy. Victor was supposed to go. He was, of course, nobody knows what his real job was, but he was supposedly going to have some fun and get happy before he marries Elizabeth.
Yeah, this was his like bachelor party.
So let's see. The name of my unfortunate and murdered friend was an agitation too great to be endured in my weak state, and I shed tears. Alas, yes, my father, replied I, some destiny of the most horrible kind hangs over me, and I must live to fulfill it, or surely I should have died on the coffin of Henry. We were not allowed to converse for any length of time, for the precarious state of my health rendered every precaution necessary that could ensure tranquility.
Lord.
Mr. Kerwin came in and insisted that my strength should not be exhausted by too much exertion.
What a softy.
But the appearance of my father was to me like that of my good angel, and I gradually recovered my health.
Oh, good.
As my sickness quitted me, I was absorbed by a gloomy and black melancholy that nothing could dissipate. The image of Clerval was forever before me, ghastly and murdered. More than once, the agitation into which these reflections threw me made my friends dread a dangerous relapse. What friends? Who's he?
Yeah, really.
Alas, why did they preserve so miserable and detested a life? It was surely that I might fill my destiny, which is now drawing to a close. Soon, oh very soon, will death extinguish these throbbings and relieve me from the mighty weight of anguish that bears me to the dust. And in executing the award of justice, I shall also sink to rest.
God, he's dramatic.
Then the appearance of death was distant, although the wish was ever present to my thoughts, and I often sat for hours, motionless and speechless, wishing for some mighty revolution that might bury me and my destroyer in its ruins. The season... The season of the Assizes approached. I don't know what that is. I had already been 3 months in prison, and although I was still weak and in continual danger of a relapse, I was obliged to travel nearly 100 miles to the county town where the court was held. Mr. Kerwin charged himself with every care of collecting witnesses and arranging my defense. I was spared the disgrace of appearing publicly as a criminal, as the case was not brought before the court that decides on life and death. The grand jury rejected the bill on its being proved that I was on the Orkney Islands at the hour the body of my friend was found. And a fortnight after my removal, I was liberated from prison.
Okay, well, that was...
Whew. Dodge that bullet.
I feel like that all took a really long time for that to just get thrown out of court.
Yeah, when you lay for months in a coma or a feverish state or whatever he was in.
Yeah, he's been like in a fever dream for 2 months. Wow.
I'm tired after all that.
He's exhausting.
My father was enraptured on finding me freed from the vexations of a criminal charge, that I was again allowed to breathe the fresh atmosphere and permitted to return to my native country. I did not participate in these feelings, for to me the walls of a dungeon or a palace were alike hateful. The cup of life was poisoned forever, and although the sun shone upon me as upon the happy and gay of heart, I saw around me nothing but a dense and frightful darkness, penetrated by no light but the glimmer of 2 eyes that glared upon me. Sometimes they were the expressive eyes of Henry, languishing in death, the dark orbs nearly covered by the lids, and the long black lashes that fringed them. Sometimes it was the watery, clouded eyes of the monster, as I first saw them in my chamber at Ingolstadt.
He has PTSD.
Yes,
Big time.
Severely. My father tried to awaken in me the feelings of affection. He talked of Geneva, which I should soon visit, of Elizabeth and Ernest, but these words only drew deep groans from me.
His dad's like, it's okay, son. It's not all that bad. Buck up. And he has no idea that what... I
don't know. Yeah. Where are they? I mean, why aren't they on the way home?
Maybe they are.
Sometimes, indeed, I felt a wish for happiness and thought with melancholy delight of my beloved cousin, or longed with a devouring, this is a French phrase, malady du pay, to see once more the blue lake in rapid Rhone that had been so dear to me in early childhood, but my general state of feeling was a torpor, in which a prison was as welcome a residence as the divinest scene in nature, and these fits were seldom interrupted but by paroxysms of anguish and despair.
Wow, you got a hard one.
At these moments I often endeavored to put an end to the existence I loathed, and it required unceasing attendance and vigilance to restrain me from committing some dreadful act of violence.
Great.
Wow. Yet one duty remained to me, the recollection of which finally triumphed over my selfish despair. It was necessary that I should return without delay to Geneva. You don't know how to do that, Victor.
Yeah.
there to watch over the lives of those I so fondly loved, and to lie in wait for the murderer, that if any chance led me to the place of his concealment, or if he dared again to blast me by his presence, I might, with unfailing aim, put an end to the existence of the monstrous image which I had endued with the mockery of a soul still more monstrous.
Bro, he's waiting. He's waiting. Until your wedding night.
My father still desired to delay our departure, fearful that I could not sustain the fatigues of a journey, for I was a shattered wreck, the shadow of a human being. My strength was gone. I was a mere skeleton, and fever night and day preyed upon my wasted frame.
He is so frail.
He's so frail. What good is he going to do anybody when he does get back to Geneva? I mean, is he going to fight off the monster like that? I don't think so. Still, as I urged our leaving Ireland with such inquietude and impatience, my father thought it best to yield. So he badgered him till he said okay. We took our passage on board a vessel bound for
somewhere.
Yeah. Off to Grace? I don't know. And sailed with a fair wind from the Irish shores. It was midnight. I lay on the deck,
laying on his boat again.
Looking at the stars again. Looking at the stars and listening to the dashing of the waves. I hailed the darkness that shut Ireland from my sight, and my pulse beat with a feverish joy when I reflected that I should soon see Geneva.
Oh, here he goes again. He's on his manic. He's you know.
He's on the high end now.
Yeah. His mood swings.
The past appeared to me in the light of a frightful dream. Yet the vessel in which I was, the wind that blew me from the detested shore of Ireland, and the sea which surrounded me, told me too forcibly that I was deceived by no vision, and that Clerval, my friend and dearest companion, had fallen a victim to me and the monster of my creation. I repassed in my memory my whole life, my quiet happiness while residing with my family in Geneva, the death of my mother, my departure for Ingolstadt. I remembered shuddering the mad enthusiasm that hurried me on the creation of my hideous enemy, and I called to mind the night in which he first lived. I was unable to pursue the train of thought. 1,000 feelings pressed upon me, and I wept bitterly. Ever since my recovery from the fever, I had been in the custom of taking every night a small quantity of laudanum, for it was by means of this drug only that I was enabled to gain the rest necessary for the preservation of life. So he's drugging out now.
Yeah.
He can't, he's on.
Yeah. He's on the pipe.
Yeah, exactly. Oppressed by the recollection of my various misfortunes, I now swallowed double my usual quantity.
I bet you did.
And soon slept profoundly.
Yeah.
But sleep did not afford me respite from thought and misery. My dreams presented 1,000 objects that scared me.
I bet. And I bet that laudanum or whatever is making your dreams worse.
Towards morning, I was possessed by a kind of nightmare. I felt the fiend's grasp in my neck, and I could not free myself from it.
Night terrors.
Groans and cries rang in my ears. My father, who was watching over me, perceiving my restlessness, awoke me. The dashing waves were around, the cloudy sky above. The fiend was not here. A sense of security, a feeling that a truce was established between the present hour and the irresistible, disastrous future, imparted to me a kind of calm forgetfulness of which the human mind is by its structure peculiarly susceptible.
His poor dad. Poor everybody in this show. And yeah, that was the end of the chapter.
End of chapter.
Dang.
21.
Wow.
I have never. I mean, that is a whole chapter of intense agony and despair right there.
Yeah.
There's his guilt eating at him. Yes. And they're telling us that's like a painkiller and opiate. Yes. Colleen, thank you. That's what I assumed. And it's probably making things worse instead of better. I don't know.
So there's about 50 pages left, actually. I saw that somebody said earlier, are we finishing tonight? It doesn't look like there's much left. There's still about 50 pages left, and I think that we've been doing like 20 pages an episode or so.
Yeah.
Or 22-ish pages. So I think we've got probably 2 episodes left. I mean, I suppose that we could, like, maybe one day this week do a marathon, like...
And just finish the book?
2.5 hour podcast and finish. I suppose we could do that.
Yeah, we probably should. What do you guys think about that?
Should we do it in one?
Does it ever get happy? It's not looking like
I don't think so. Should we do 2 more to finish or one big marathon episode? You guys let us know.
Yeah, just let us know. And if you're listening, you'll find out. It'll be listed however many episodes we have left.
Exactly. Wow, man. I just, wow.
Yes, they said yes, please, 1. I mean, I kind of think it might be good for the flow.
Okay.
You know, like to end the whole thing, because I feel like it's going to stop in a really weird place, you know, to end.
Yeah. So we will make sure and schedule it in plenty of time. I do think that we'll probably do it one night this week.
Yeah.
Like maybe, I don't know. Should we just pick a date right now?
Yeah, it can't be.
Can't be Tuesday.
No, we're on a YouTube show of somebody else's on Tuesday.
Yeah. I don't know. It could
Thursday?
be Thursday night. Let's do it Thursday night.
We'll shoot for Thursday night.
Yeah.
And finish this up.
Thursday night around 7 Central or so. That's what we'll shoot for.
That sounds good.
Sound good?
Sounds good. Yeah, I really do think that it deserves to end like with the rest of what's happening.
Little Frank. Y'all, I was not prepared for that to be Henry. I did not see that coming.
I didn't either.
You guys saw that coming. I did not see that coming. That literally, Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley is doing it good, man. This is a great book. I had no idea. I had no idea that this book was so good.
And little Frank has become ruthless.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
You can't have much sympathy for him left.
I do.
Oh, come on, Mary Beth.
I feel sorry for him.
He's picking him off now, just,
It's fine. I'm still Team Little Frank. I'm going to get a shirt that says Team Little Frank.
Maybe we need merch.
We need merch.
Hey, that's
what we need to do.
You guys, we need merch.
That's what we're going to do. It's going to happen.
I think we need it just to commemorate.
Yeah.
Just to commemorate this great first podcast.
Yeah. Team Little Frank.
I think it's been fun. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Can I be Team Henry?
No. Well, I guess you can. Nobody can be Team Victor. I forbid it. So, anyway.
Colleen, we haven't decided on the subject of the next one. We're still working on that.
We are.
By the way, we have a couple of emails out there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's the same email that keeps saying that they have a decision or that they've made an adjustment to our claim.
For those of you who don't know, we do have a request in with a publisher to read a book. So Frankenstein is in the public domain. So it's old enough that you can read it. We can do this legally without having to request permission. Mm-hmm. So we do have a book, though, that we are wanting to read. It's like sort of a vintage mystery / I don't know.
The whole thing
That's how this started.
Yes, because we were trying to find some kind of saucy after 11 type vintage book
to read
and comment on, and it was supposed to be really funny. And little did we know. I mean, we realized after we started that we weren't allowed to do that. So
right, and
now we've been trying to get permission because we've already got a few hours worth.
Yeah, to be honest, I think we recorded like 3 episodes of that book. And then we thought to ourselves, we're like, you know what? We could get in a lot of trouble for this. And so we stopped what we were doing, sent in the request to the publisher, and that was like 8 weeks ago. So we're still trying.
So, Colleen, I mean, there's plenty of books that would be good though. So we can do another book if you guys think we might do a couple of episodes in between though, before we start on a whole book,
Yeah.
We'll do like just a couple of regular ones.
Yeah. So if we do a new book,
just chit chat.
It will need to be something that's in the public domain so that we can, not get in any sort of copyright trouble for reading.
But like we could do something awesome. Like we could do Wuthering Heights or, I don't know. Have any of you guys read A Lady in White? I think that looks good.
Well, there you go. All right, besties, we're going to let you guys go for the night.
Oh, they want countenance on the merch as well.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I like it. I like it. We will do that. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for joining us for the podcast. If you're listening to this podcast out there somewhere in podcast land, we would love for you to come over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel and watch us here. That would be awesome. Likewise, those of you who are listening and watching on YouTube, you can go find us out there in podcast land if you would rather listen to us that way.
That's right.
Okay, make sure you give this video a like. If you're listening out there somewhere else, follow this podcast and, stay tuned. And have an awesome weekend, everybody. And as always, make sure you stay tuned to see what Fatbird finds next. And we will see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you this week for the end.
Thursday.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.